Welcome back to The Mumbling Gamer. Today we're talking about Dying Light 2. Ever since announcement back in 2018, there has been some fears behind what Dying Light 2 will be. However, hope for the sequel grew when we saw more gameplay, with the massive expansion and development from the first game. The trailer really shows off some big massive story elements and a lot more humans involved in this game, with it being set in the distant future of the original game, and the world has kind of gone back to its roots, going into a medieval kind of style of living to survive the zombie apocalypse. It does feel like the game is going into the right direction, but we're still worried about Dying Light 2.
I'm gonna buckle, I swear to God.
And here is why. Firstly, we have the delays. However, in today's age, delays are very normal for games, especially with the 2-year gas leak year, where nearly every studio at the start of the gas leak year were delaying their games, what ended up with them 2 years not having many releases. Unlike most, however, there were reports that Dying Light 2 had some trouble from behind the scenes as well. In a report that was making its rounds last year, with developers complaining about poor management of the whole Techland studio. With the game originally meant to release in 2020 and has now been delayed twice, with its scheduled to release last year and then got delayed until the current release date being February 4th. All these delays could be seen as a benefit of the doubt, but the game as a whole is starting to feel like Cyberpunk in a lot of different ways. There are a couple of reasons why Dying Light 2 and Cyberpunk are starting to feel slightly similar. One of them is the casting of a famous person. Where Cyberpunk had Keanu Reeves, Dying Light 2 has Rosario Dawson. There is even some writers who have jumped ship from CD Projekt Red to Techland. Then we have the ambitious changes compared to the first game. And like many changes from the original concept, you still find zombies in a first person parkour experience. I like how CD Projekt went from third person to first person, making it a completely different game. Dying Light 2 might have came out of this in a good light due to them staying in a similar premise. However, there are still some massive ambitious changes here. This being the fact that the game will now be heavily story driven, full of multiple characters and game changing choices throughout the whole story. It feels a lot more like an RPG, and it could come to bite Techland in the arse. However, with the game now feeling more like a Cyberpunk, Fallout and Dying Light mix match of different mechanics, that might make a great game, but also could be the massive downfall of the Dying Light series. All these elements make me worried that I could get another one of these.
Can you kill something that big?
Rather than these. I'm seeing some red flags that have been painted by Cyberpunk, but are now massive red flags in the industry, and Dying Light 2 is showing a lot of them.
You're breathtaking!
Another worry is the fact that we have too much information already out there about this game. This might not be a red flag for everyone, but we've had a 6-part episodic deep dive into the game already, and also seen more tidbits and pieces scattered about before the release. At this point, it already feels like I've played Dying Light 2. The fact that this is a sequel, we don't need to see this much. One recent announcement was the whole skill tree. Taking away any surprise, it feels like a misstep. Every time they should have went left, they did this instead. Especially after watching all 3 hours of these episodes. Let's have a quick look at what was shown within these episodes. Firstly, we have a very cheesy introduction of what these type of things are known for, what goes into a conversation with the director who explains everything what happens between Dying Light 1 and 2. I do hope we learn more about this while playing Dying Light 2, because it has been 20 years since the first Dying Light. There is a story to be told there. Then we got the voice actor of Aiden, the main character, telling us more about the character.
Why?
Then we got a gameplay trailer, what I'm not complaining about. It was a really good gameplay trailer, what shows off the game in a great way. However, it did kind of feel that this whole 30-minute episode could have been put into 8 minutes. In the second episode, we go into way too much detail about how the infected work. It's zombies, we get it. About 5 games a year release about zombies.
Hello, excuse me, hello? Are you radioactive zombies looking for brains, or survivors thanking the one attribute that's kept you alive?
Zombies.
Oh, okay.
Didn't feel right to lie to you.
Of course.
Then we get another gameplay trailer what already seems a bit too much. In this episode, it already feels like Techland isn't confident in their release of their game due to the fact how much detail we already have about the world we could have learned through playing. With the third episode, we get an exclusive episode with GameSpot. What really started with that crappy looking Marvel game about a son what looks like a Marvel game. This felt like a very buffer episode where it just kind of repeated everything it has gone through with the first two episodes, making it feel like this was just a marketing stunt, just throw a load of stuff on GameSpot's channel with it being more popular. This is where we go into the next episode where we got another gameplay trailer. This is the third gameplay trailer and then we got the announcement of the act, and that was the focus of that episode. And then we have the final two episodes. One of them was just another info dump of in-depth information on the game, and the final episode was a lot of gameplay, even more gameplay. It does feel like after watching all of them, this should have been kind of released after the release of the game. Like all the in-depth stuff is something you would see in a documentary thing after the game. Obviously, apart from the announcements and the gameplay, it did feel like this could have been done in one video closer to release rather than 6. This kind of worries me because it does feel like they're trying to get players buying Dying Light 2 early rather than what people do and wait for the reviews before buying. And lastly, we have the massive misfires of Techland's announcements over the past couple of months, with announcements like the 500 hours what quickly got fixed by saying that the game this is to complete everything within the game, with them saying the game's story will only take 20 hours. Techland has made a couple of misfires with these announcements, one of them being the fact that the map will be 4 times as bigger, making it feel like a Ubisoft game, and looking at the studio, it's massively starting to become out of touch. A lot of gamers can't afford these 500 hours into the game, and a lot of gamers don't see it bigger as better in the market. The game looks to be going as a massive RPG, like near every game in the market these days, but it could be that the game is trying to appeal to everyone rather than their fan base from the first game. Looking at the Dying Light and the first couple of trailers and the latest one, there's a lot that stands out and still some original ideas here. We don't have near any parkour experiences in the AAA market these days after the death of Mirror's Edge. I'm worried that they have looked at everyone around them and tried to go to 2 RPG and buckled down by the story, rather than the parkour zombie slaying game what we all fell in love with. But what do you think of Dying Light 2? Are you looking forward to it, or like me, worried about the game but have already pre-ordered it? And that's it from us. We will see you on the next one, where we will be most likely reviewing Pokemon before reviewing Dying Light. We'll see you on the next Mumble. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Time will blow your head off.
Sweet. Love you too.
You better get it right.